Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers level their record at 2-2 behind a monster game for Anthony Davis. See what I did there, Andy? That's next.
No.
It's Halloween.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. Always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to hang out with over 21,000 subscribers to the channel. Lakers, it wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty, but they do escape with a 106-103 win over Orlando on Monday. They level their record at 2-2 as they face... Now, this has been truly a nightmare. The Clippers on Wednesday. The Lakers have lost 473 consecutive games to the Clippers. Probably best if they don't play them on Halloween, because that would be too frightening. But we'll see what happens on Wednesday. In the meantime, a few things to go over tonight, Andy. We learned a little bit more about Rui Hachimura and why he might not have played late in Sunday's game. He certainly didn't play on Monday with an injury that sort of snuck up on people. Austin Reeves, I guess technically was better than he was on Sunday, but it would have been hard to be worse. Still not playing well. But let's start with the guys, the guys who are. Anthony Davis played Monday like a guy who woke up and once again took a peek at the GM ratings, the GM survey, where nobody put him in the list of the best defensive players in the league. And he throttled Orlando on that side of the ball on Monday. I mean, he was everywhere.
Frankly, just throttled Orlando on both sides of the ball.
Right. But I mean, the defensive part was what jumped out at me. He was everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it was a monster night for AD. 26 points, 12 of 18 from the field, 19 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal. Interesting stat I saw from Jovan Buha, friend of the show, covers the Lakers for The Athletic. Since the second half that he went scoreless the opening night in Denver, 30 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks, 3 steals versus Phoenix. 30 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals versus Sacramento. 26 points, 19 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal versus Orlando. To quote John Wick, yeah, I think I'm back.
Yeah, it's good reason, Andy, if you're up for it, to get yourself on that Game Time app. You download the Game Time app. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. You can go find an opportunity to see Anthony Davis throttle another team. Like this, but this is what the Lakers need. Like the 0 points in the second half against Denver was kind of an exaggerated neon lights kind of thing where you go, this is like the most extreme version of kind of that thing we talk about sometimes. But then if you're going to harp on that, as we've discussed, like you have to acknowledge the other stuff. He had a bad half of basketball. He's played 6 awesome halves since then. Give him some credit for that.
7, really. He actually played a good first half.
Right, but I said since then. I restarted the clock, like an OSHA calendar, like X days since our last workplace accident, which is essentially what a scoreless second half for Anthony Davis is, a workplace accident. So they've had 6 good halves since then. It just like when he plays like that, the Lakers can be a little disjointed. They can get another Strugglesville performance from Austin Reeves. You can be out, no Rui Hachimura and whatever. Go down the line. When Anthony Davis plays like that, they have a chance to win.
Well, I mean, this is ultimately what you want from your superstars. When they play at a superstar level, you never feel like you're completely out of a game. And the Lakers are still a team that largely looks out of sorts. Like even tonight, where their offense was often rolling, throughout this game, the Lakers' inability to hold on to the ball, whether you're talking about turnovers on errant passes, their inability to get 50-50 balls through no lack of effort. Like, they were playing hard.
They played hard. Yeah.
They often got their hands on the ball and couldn't hang on to it. The defensive rebounding problem continues to plague this team. They got them when they needed them. And just to make sure he gets mentioned in case throughout the show we focus on other guys, Christian Wood was huge along these lines. The final defensive rebound that the Lakers got, Christian Wood off of Jalen Suggs' miss, he held on to that ball like the fate of Western civilization laid in the balance of that ball not hitting the ground. Like, he was holding on to that thing with two hands to where he was white knuckling and like the veins were all coming out. But, you know, and Darvin said,
just for reference, the Lakers had 40 rebounds on the night. Davis and Wood combined for 28 of them.
Yeah,
so like those two, Davis 19, Wood 9. I mean, those two dudes were doing all the work for the Lakers on the glass. To the extent work was being done, those were the guys that
well, you know, I mean, again, I want to give the Lakers credit. I think the work was being done, just not very well. Like, this was
no, I'm saying, but like they just weren't getting into, like, it's when you try to figure out, you know, the Lakers shot 53%, and actually by the end of the game, the 3-point percentage, which was down in the, you know, high teens, low 20s for much of the game, they hit a couple late, and that bumped it up. DLo had one. LeBron had, you know, hit a clutch 3. DLo might have had 2, I think, late. But
he did.
It, you know, that bumped it up to about 30%. The Lakers, though, they were 78% from the line. They outshot Orlando from the line. Both teams, not a lot of trips, but the Lakers had 14 of 18. Orlando had 13 of 18. The Lakers 53% from the field. The Magic 40% from the field. The thing that kept the game close were second chance points, and then Orlando was 40% from 3-point range, and that actually went down as the end of the game went. So like that's why this game was close, was because the Lakers couldn't get those inefficiencies out of their offense in terms of turnovers, like you say, and defense in terms of second chance points.
They also, too, like Orlando, we mentioned heading into this game that for people who either had forgotten how well Orlando finished last season, you know, the last 40 to 50 games, they played at a 500 level, which says a lot because they began the year playing at, you know, something like
about a 5 level.
Yes, I mean they I think were like 5-20 or something like that to open the season, then really turned it around. They were undefeated heading into this game. I watched them play over the weekend. They looked good. They're also a weird team to play against. Like, they're sort of uniquely quirky. They've got multiple bigs who can handle the ball. They can also operate inside and outside. They're like always forcing mismatches because they can put a lot of their guys anywhere they want on the court. Their guards, Suggs was terrific in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Fultz played well. Like, they've got guys who are smart and they're tough. They're confident. Like, when this team gets more experienced, they're going to be really good.
Yeah,
like, they're good now, but they could be very good.
I think Orlando is somewhere. I mean, the East is a little hard to figure out right now in terms of, you know which teams are going to be at the top more or less. You know, obviously, Boston and and Philly are the best teams
in Milwaukee
in the conference. In Milwaukee, those 3 teams are going to be up there, and then after that, it's like, Atlanta's looked okay, and I think Cleveland is ultimately going to be pretty good. But if you told me the Knicks could finish in the top 4, okay, fine. And if you told me Indiana could figure it out, I'd be like, okay, fine. Halliburton, Turner, sure. You can put about 12 teams in that sort of. They're not good, but the conference isn't that good. And Miami will probably be in there somewhere because they always are. But Orlando is not garbage. They are not a trash team any longer. They've got too much talent on that team. And, the Lakers at this point of the season, every game is a tricky one. The other guy, though, who played well, some fans are going to look at this and say, oh, DLo had a breakout game. And in some ways, I guess he did, but we'll tell you why. Actually, no, not really. Next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can celebrate this NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 in bonus bets if the team you chooses wins on just, again, $5 money line bet. And you can use the bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, futures, all sorts of fun stuff. Really easy app to use, all the options right there at your fingertips. And of course, NBA options you can bet on as well. LeBron is a 50-1 bet to win MVP. AD 31-1. Old friend Russell Westbrook 500-1. I happen to notice that. Ben Simmons also 500-1. That feels ambitious. Equally ambitious, Jalen Hood Schifino 151 to win Rookie of the Year. Anthony Davis 9-1 to win Defensive Player of the Year. That feels much more of a winnable bet.
Stuck on this, Ben. Who are the people who are putting money on that?
Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and enjoy this NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL.
Okay, so D'Angelo Russell, 28 points, 10 of 14 from the floor, 3 of 6 from three-point range, 5 of 5 from the line. The turnover parade that the Lakers put on was not him. 3 for D'Lo, and he was in 36 minutes. Solid ratio, 8 assists. That I mentioned. People are going to say
12 of his points were in the fourth quarter. Just really quick, so people know.
Thank you. People are going to look at this and say, "Oh, he had a breakout game." Yes, in the sense that the efficiency was there, and the 3-point shot. I think he came into the game shooting 25% from three, which is bad. And he was 3 for 6 on Monday. But I actually think the only difference between Monday's game for D'Lo and the other 3 was the 3-point shot, and particularly the 3-point shot, because that's the thing you notice most with him was when he misses open threes. I thought everything else about how he played on both sides of the ball, in terms of active hands defensively, being part of the scheme, certainly not being an anchor on there or drag on their defense, and the way he set up his teammates, the way he not only got assists but found open players and he's been doing that for the first 3 games. I think he's played very well, and tonight he just had the points to go with it.
Yeah, we actually mentioned that on Monday's show, that obviously you don't get extra credit for intentionality. At some point, D'Angelo Russell needs those shots to fall, and it wasn't even just from beyond the arc. Some of the like mid-range jumpers he was putting up, they weren't falling as well. But if you watch the way he was actually playing and looking at the ways that he was trying to control a game, set up his teammates, look for guys to get him open looks, his overall energy, we both thought like he looks fine. Like, the results on these shots obviously matter, particularly when you're dealing with a backcourt of Austin Reeves and Gabe Vincent. There was also struggling to
finally hit a 3-pointer. He finally got a 3-pointer on Monday.
One, but it's a start. It's the first step towards hopefully 2 in a game.
We are no longer in my kingdom for a horse territory with Gabe Vincent and 3-pointers.
But it just D'Lo also too. This was interesting. He threw down a dunk, like a baseline dunk over Paolo Banchero. I looked it up. It was the 21st dunk of D'Angelo Russell's career. Which I know struck a lot of people. I tweeted this out. They were like, there's no way he's dunked 21 times. Those people must have missed the 2022 season where he threw down 5 times that year.
That's right.
he was
kapow!
Yeah, he was channeling his inner Vince Carter that year and goosing the numbers. But it was interesting too. He got 2 quick fouls early in this game, and I'd been a little bit concerned that was going to throw him off in terms of the way he played. Like he might have been a little more tentative or ineffective, just trying to avoid that 3rd foul. And he eventually got it in the first half, but it did not really affect the way he played at all. He had a couple nice defensive sequences as well. And I agree. I think he's looked good in this in the season so far.
Yeah.
You just needed the shots to fall, and tonight they did. He was really dynamic out there.
Yeah, it was the Phoenix game. I think it was, he was 6 of 16 from the floor or something like that, and 1 of 7 from 3. So like he's a high volume 3-point shooter. And so when he misses all of them, it messes with his percentages, because a lot of his shots come from there. And look, I mean, this is this type of game you would expect, you would want under normal circumstances Reeves to be a guy who picked it up. And technically speaking, he, I guess, was better on Monday than Sunday, in the sense that Sunday he was 1 for 12 and Monday he was 5 for 12. But overall still struggles for Austin Reeves. I think it's a comment. Like, he seems like a lot of the dribble drives and stuff that worked really well last year, I think he seems to be like, just the flow of traffic, the open lanes just aren't where I think he thinks they're going to be. A couple times he dribbled and like ran into Anthony Davis. A couple times he missed the shot he's looking for. I also think his free throw percentage, both in terms of making them but getting to the line, is down a little bit this year. Not drastically, but a little bit. And I feel like he's in that in-between space where he's feeling for contact like he was so effective with. And he's not. That's, if there's an adjustment that maybe teams are making, I think it's not giving him a body to push up against, whether he gets the fouls or not. I think he uses those defenders to level himself, to get the shot. Like, and so that stuff is just 10% different, or whatever it is. He wasn't there tonight. Didn't work. So you need D'Angelo Russell, because even LeBron, who did play on Monday, he wasn't bad, but he looked like a man pushing 40 on the second night of a back-to-back in his 21st season kind of game. He wasn't bad, but there were moments where he looked like he might be a little tuckered.
Yeah, it never crossed my mind that it never crossed my mind that LeBron wouldn't play. Like, I know the question had been asked and it hadn't been clarified as to whether or not he would play on the second end of this back-to-back. I just felt like, I think this came up during Monday's show when we noted that it hadn't been clarified. I'm just like, they're 1-2 and the schedule to open is too difficult. Like, if they were 2-1 or 3-0, then maybe I could see them sitting LeBron. Although, frankly, I don't think LeBron wants to be doing that.
No, I don't think he wants to, but you can at least make the argument.
At 1-2, they did not have the luxury of doing that. And then whatever speculation about AD, whether he was going to play in the second end of the back-to-back, I'm like, dude's in his prime. It's game 4. Right. Like, if Anthony Davis in his prime, not coming off a specific injury, cannot play the second end of a back-to-back in October, this guy should not be the franchise face moving forward.
Yeah.
So it never crossed my mind that AD wouldn't play.
And, again, you look at the schedule and just people haven't, it's Wednesday against the Clippers at, on their home floor. But again, a team that they, to say the least, struggled against over the last, 5 or 6 years or whatever it is now. Then you have a 4-game trip that takes you to Orlando, to Miami, always a difficult place to play, even if the Heat are off to a slow start, which they are. Houston, not great, but, better than they were. And, Phoenix. So, I mean, that's a difficult 4-game road trip. And then you come home, and after Portland, who aren't very good, you get Memphis and Sacramento. I mean, like, it just doesn't stop. Like, even if you count Houston as a gimme game or something like that, and you probably shouldn't on their floor, you're still talking Houston and Portland are the only ones until mid-November where you could say, okay, those are two, they have to go in the win column. But like, you can't put yourself in position to be able to rest guys down the stretch if you start off 2, 3, 4 games under 500. You have to win the games now to give yourself the opportunity to be flexible with rest later in the season.
It's also just, to me, it's too early. It's just too early in the season totally to be resting guys non-specifically. Like, even LeBron to some degree, like, it's too early for that. Like, he should, even recognizing season 21 pushing 39, I feel like he should be able to play the second end of a back-to-back in game 4, even if, say, he played 28 minutes or whatever. Like, it's too early for some of this, just practically speaking. Like,
Right.
your first and second best players can't be that potentially unavailable.
And in a nail-biter game,
right.
His minutes were lower. It was 33 minutes, and
thankfully it didn't go to overtime.
DLo was on a lot of levels. DLo was active, and obviously AD's game, which we mentioned, and Reeves was on the floor for 31 minutes, even if he didn't play great. He was still out there, and that they protected LeBron a little bit, but yeah, he needs to play. One guy who didn't play on Monday was Rui Hachimura, and perhaps what kept him out means we might owe Darvin Ham an apology for some of our commentary on Monday's show. We'll explain next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Game Time, and I was about 12 or so. I still remember this vividly. The police were on the Synchronicity Tour, and it was a really hot ticket. Mm-hmm. I couldn't get seats, but I said at the time, no big deal. I will just catch the next police tour. But they broke up, and I eventually saw Sting, and he was great, but it's not the same thing as the police. And I learned at that moment, when it comes to a concert that you really want to see, an artist that you really love, carpe diem, don't miss out. That's why I love Game Time. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy shows, theater near you. And they offer images of seat views, the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. The Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time credits you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. So snag the tickets without the stress using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
So before we get to Christian Wood, I was listening to the you mentioned the DLo dunk figure. What is it, 25, 21?
This was his 21st throwdown
first of his career, and it's not like it's his first day. He's been in the league for a little bit. They were asking Fish on the Lakers postgame show how many dunks that he had, because they pointed out this was one of the very few dunks that DLo has had over the course of his career. And they asked Fish how many dunks he had, and his answer was not 21. Do you know how many dunks Derek Fisher had?
Not only do I know, I actually supplied the answer to the folks over at Spectrum. He had 13 dunks.
That's right.
In his NBA career. The last one came during the 2003-2004 season, the Kobe, Shaq, Malone, Payton season. Derek Fisher threw down one time. That was his last dunk. 5 times, though. 5 dunks as a rookie.
Spry.
Yes.
Spry. Fish, at least, is short. Like, DLo's kind of tall for 21 dunks.
I remember one time Kobe, Sasha had a rare dunk during a game, and Kobe said after, he's like, I have to remind Sasha all the time, you're 6'7", you're taller than me.
Yeah.
Like you ought to be able to do this a little more often.
Like Derek Fisher was 6'1". For a 6'1" guy to be able to have 13 NBA dunks, I'm okay. I can live with that. But I mean, D'Angelo is not quite short enough for that not to be kind of sad.
DLo says all the time he's not athletic by NBA standards.
Guess that's what he means. Let's talk about Christian Wood, who I think we could agree didn't look great in the preseason.
No. Other than rebounding, he did not look good at all.
He has fit in very nicely. I think the Monday's game against Orlando was, if not his best one, one of it's a small sample size here, but what it continues to be is a guy who's not lighting it up defense. It's not like he's coming in scoring 25 points and all that kind of stuff. The point totals are quite low, but the rebounding is strong, and most importantly, Andy, the defense has really been anywhere from fine to a little better than that. And like, he is not costing them at all on that side of the ball.
Well, I would say it depends on what he's being asked to do defensively. if he's the primary guy guarding the lane by himself, I think there he's often looked pretty shaky. But if he's if he's a secondary guy around the lane, like he talked about this afterwards, like if AD is the primary guy and he's there to either be a secondary shot blocker or to look to secure a rebound after AD either blocks a shot or alters it, he's done very good work there. And he's been surprisingly good guarding guys in isolation in space.
Yeah.
Surprisingly,
like the effort is there, like the attention is there. Like, it's a little bit like we talked about with Malik Monk when he was, he had a really bad defensive reputation when he got to LA, and Lonnie
he admitted
Walker
he hadn't worked hard on it.
Some degree, it's just like, okay, you give guys credit for, like, I'm buying into what we're doing here. Like, I am going to give you the effort that I can. It is not going to be perfect every time. NBA defense is really hard. And so I feel like, broadly speaking, he has been pretty good on that side of the ball. And there's a lot of, like, it's very similar to DLo. It's like, you can only expect so much. There are certain things that Christian Wood, he's always been a guy who gathers a block a game or something like that. Like, it's not that he can't block shots, and he had at least one nice one on Monday, but it's just all the other stuff. It's the attention to detail. It's the look good for 2 possessions, break down for 2 possessions. Russell's kind of the same thing. It's like, can you max out what you're capable of doing? Nobody expects you to be the defensive player of the year. Nobody expects Wood to be the defensive player of the year. But can you max out what you're capable of? I don't know exactly if he is, but I'm relatively sure that the folks in Dallas would look at that and be like, where the hell was this when I don't know what was going on down there. But I think I've been very happy with what this has looked like so far.
Well, I think it helps when he plays alongside AD, not just because everybody benefits.
You and I.
Right. Everyone benefits from having Anthony Davis as your backline defensively, or just his presence defensively. But I think it also allows him to focus on certain things as opposed to having to focus on everything. Or it allows him to be in fewer places of, even by, I guess, Christian Wood standards or reputational standards.
It narrows the responsibility list. Right. And that makes it easier for a guy like him.
Right. And in the meantime, he's always been really good on the defensive glass. Darvin talked after the game about how Christian Wood grabs some of the most difficult defensive rebounds he's ever seen. And you watch him, like, he's really good at getting them in traffic around a lot of people. He grabs the ball high. He does that's
a big thing. He goes and gets it while it's up there.
Yeah. I mean, that's not fluky. Like, that's something he's done really well his whole career. Orlando presented a good matchup where you could have him and LeBron and AD on the floor at the same time, because you need to be big against Orlando anyway. Like, had Rui been available in this game, we didn't get into the specifics. Rui had a left eye contusion that was not announced after last night's game. And I asked somebody close to the team if they had known about this, and this person said they had no idea. Like, it was the news of Rui first being doubtful and then downgraded to out. That was the first.
That came out relatively late Monday. Right. By these standards. It was mid-afternoon that they downgraded him to doubtful.
That was the first time this person had heard anything about it as well.
And so, like, that very well could explain why, after a really good start to the fourth quarter, why Rui didn't play.
Maybe.
So,
but and Rui theoretically could have been an option to play in that matchup as another big guy. But, Wood, for example, would not have been, I think, a particularly good option to close against Sacramento. Like, they're too quick to guard and smaller wing heavy for him to be out there in those closing minutes, as much as we heard from a lot of fans, if nothing else, wishing he had played more in the second half.
Right.
But a team built like Orlando, or I think sometimes a team built like Denver, you could theoretically find ways to work with that Wood, AD, LeBron lineup, because I think Wood has just been better defensively in those respects than either one of us anticipated. But also, too, sometimes you just have to go bigger, even if Darvin sometimes doesn't seem to want to do that. Like you have to.
And a lot of this, again, it's less about Wood and it's about LeBron. Like there were a couple times LeBron ended up in places in this game where it's just like this isn't going to work. But that was always. It's not just Wood, as we've explained. It's the reason you can't, because you can't set LeBron up to have to chase small forwards around. That's not.
And when Vando's back, Vando could be that third big player.
If you're looking for signs of encouragement that for Wood to work in this environment, he's going to have to buy into the stuff. And what the Lakers were hoping, and Darvin talked about it after the game, was that the culture of the team would seep into what he's doing and how he's doing it. And, as Darvin says, you don't want to be the guy who's screwing that up. And we've talked about the stakes that are here for Wood in terms of reestablishing himself as a player that good teams could actually use. That's going to be critical for his mind. He's 28 years old. Like he's no longer one of these guys that you can look at as just a prospect. I mean, so if he's going to have a second half of his career, good teams need to be able to be interested in him. And so he has to be able to buy into a role that doesn't always include scoring. And thus far, the returns are really good. It is Halloween, and but we will still be getting you ready on Wednesday for the Clipper game. Some stuff that we didn't get into: Cam Reddish still playing, and where Max Christie might be. So there's that. I think we got to continue to wonder about what's going on with Austin Reeves. But the Lakers, and then obviously the Clipper game on Wednesday. At some point, they're going to beat the Clippers again, Andy. Let's hope it's on Wednesday. Plenty to get into this week. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to leave us questions, leave us comments. We would love to work them into Wednesday's show as we get ready for that Clippers game. That's about all. See everybody Wednesday.